Hey everybody, it's Josh from Orange County Housing Market News, and today I'm going to be interviewing Debbie Chow, the owner and operator of Stage to Amaze, a staging company here in Orange County, and we're going to be going over what staging is, what the process looks like to get your house staged, how much to expect it to cost, and then ultimately why staging is so important, especially right now during COVID, to make sure you're not only selling your home quickly, but for the highest price possible. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, today we have on the show Debbie Chow. So she is the owner and operator of Stage to Amaze, which is a staging company in Orange County. So I wanted to invite her on here because especially right now with everything going on, it's extremely important to make sure that if you're selling a home, that it's looking as good as possible in those pictures and those videos that are taking place, because a lot of buyers are looking at that and making that their primary way of actually seeing the property versus going there in person, because it is a little bit harder to do during the COVID outbreak. So with that being said, I want to welcome Debbie Chow. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Josh.
Absolutely. So if you can just kind of go over what your company is about, how you got into the industry, and just a little bit about yourself.
Great. So I started a little bit differently. I was a business manager in corporate America, and about 5 years ago, I left and started doing my own flips. And at that time, I determined that I needed to have them staged. So I started by staging my own flips. And then my realtors asked me to help stage their properties, which then grew into Stage to Amaze, where we have a full team of designers and movers on staff. And our goal is to help our clients through this process and to get them the quickest sell for the most amount of profit.
Got it. And that's always what I'm looking for with the sellers too. So everybody's on the same page with that one. So how did so you started corporate America, you said, really, and
Mhm.
then what kind of drew you to this industry before you kind of got into the whole real estate industry and doing the flips and that kind of stuff?
I was always fascinated by it. I watched way too much HGTV, and I
Don't
started,
we all?
I know, going to every open house in the neighborhood and then seeing the houses that were fixers and thinking of all the ideas of what I could do for their properties to improve them. And I always knew that I wanted to do something different, and I felt passionate about it. And I just one day woke up and made the change.
Got it. Well, it makes sense. So again, this is HDTV is pretty much impacting a lot of people's lives and making a lot of people, especially right now, I've seen an influx of agents coming in the market as well as, and it seems like this whole industry is kind of blowing up during the whole COVID time. So
Correct.
with that, let's go ahead and get into staging specific things. So if you don't mind explaining for people that might not be aware of it, what is staging and kind of what are the benefits that you see in staging a property when you're trying to sell it?
Staging is presenting your property in the best light possible. Um, Whether we're living in the home or the house is currently vacant, it's a way to give buyers a vision of what the property can look like, how it could work for them. It's taking it and putting it, I don't want to say neutral, but you're making it so you're attracting the most amount of buyers possible. So making it something that everybody can appreciate and they can see the layout and they can envision their future there. And whether it's taking a home that someone's occupying and changing it from how we live daily, which is not how we
Yep.
stage, or taking a property that's fully empty and creating that vision.
Got it. You mean people that live in their property when they have kids running around and have chalk all over the walls
It's
and
not how we
mess?
call it,
Yeah,
but yes,
I have a hard time keeping my house neat for more than 10 minutes at a time with two kids running around. So
100%.
that's
I understand.
so in that kind of same vein, in terms of people, if they're living in the same property and they want to sell the property before they actually get out of the
Mhm.
house, I know you said that you don't do that process anymore, usually more specialized in the vacant properties, but when you were doing that process, what was the general What did the process look like for a seller, and kind of what would you expect when you're going in and talking to these sellers that are going to be in the property and basically going over how that whole process works while they're still living there, at the same time
Right.
having everything staged to look as close to an HDTV property as
Right.
possible, knowing that someone's going to be living in there. It's always going to be hard to keep it perfect
Right.
on that end of it.
Well, typically it starts with a consultation with your home stager. Depending on where you're starting the process, quite often your realtor's involved in the process. Going through the property, I always say is you're starting the packing now. You're going to have to pack and move at some point, so why not do it before you put your home on the market? And at the same time, you don't necessarily want everybody looking through your items. So it's a great time to go through and kind of look at your furniture pieces, find out maybe how to downscale to make your property look bigger. Sometimes we need to update a piece to make it look a little bit more modern. We're asked people quite often to do minor fixes to their property, whether it's moving heavy curtains from the wall or patching a crack, cleaning a property. And then it's just kind of going through and putting through the plan of what needs to be remain and what needs to be added, and what kind of artwork and accessories that a stager can add just to kind of give your home that extra boost to look great in the pictures.
Got it.
So there's a lot to be done for someone that lives in the property, and we have ideas of helping people live in the property and maintain it. Some of our ideas are like bathrooms and kitchens. Basically, you're removing everything from the counters, downsizing to exactly what you need, and having everybody get like plastic cubbies so you can pull them out at the beginning of the day and put them away at the end of the when you're done using them.
Okay.
So it's easier. Beds, we take pictures of how they're made, have them keep them on their phones so they could kind of replicate that before an open house or before a showing. So there's a lot of different ways that your stager can help you through the process.
Got it. So it sounds like, I mean, there's two big key roles. A lot of people think staging is kind of just come in, you throw some furniture in there, and that's it. But it sounds like it's more comprehensive on your end, where you're saying, yes, we might replace a few things here and there, make everything flow a little better through the house. But a lot of it is also giving you tips to be able to make your house appear more attractive while you're living in it.
Correct.
And going through and making sure that you're kind of decluttering, because that is a big portion of making
It's
your house look
huge.
bigger. Yeah, and making everything look a little bit more open and more inviting is kind of getting rid of those 300 kid toys you have, or the random
Yeah.
stuff you have kind of collected over the
Yeah.
years. Especially, I'm sure you see that a lot with people that have lived in their homes for a very long time. You tend to collect a lot of things that kind of just end up sitting around the house. So it's kind of important to know for people, especially sellers, that the stagers aren't just there to throw some artwork on your wall and replace a few pieces of furniture. They're there to really help you get the whole property ready to go,
Right.
and giving you ideas of what you need to be doing to make sure it's selling as quick as possible. And like you said, Debbie, as the highest price, getting the most
Right.
offers and drawing the most attention. And again,
Correct.
especially I like to bring this up because of COVID. A lot of people are doing those online shopping, so that's a lot of times that's the only impressions that they're seeing of the house before they put offers in it. So you want to make sure that you're leaving the best first impression as possible. So
Yes.
in terms of people that are actually out of the property, so they don't need to be in there more, they've already moved, how does the process differ for someone like that, where there's no furniture left in the house, compared to someone that's actually living in there?
So when there's no furniture, we do start again with a consultation, because we have to go through the house, put together a plan to decide what items need to be brought into the space to make it the most attractive and flow the best. And at that time, we do make recommendations to the seller, depending on whether maybe there's a lack of lighting, like I said, old draperies, minor repairs, and kind of put together a checklist of things they can do in addition to us bringing in the furniture items. A little bit different from when someone lives there, we bring in absolutely everything. So it's the home that's lived in, but not. So if our home looked like that every day, it would be great, but we know it's not the reality. But
Yeah.
it is to give that home inviting. The kitchen looks like you want to sit down and have a cup of coffee. You want to sit on that couch. So that's what our job is.
Got it. It's creating that vision so people that walk in the house or view it online can see themselves living there, and see themselves living there comfortably and enjoying themselves.
We want them not to leave. We want them to feel like they can stay there for hours and make that offer. So
Okay, so basically, I mean, there's kind of two different scenarios, but from what you do, what do you usually see in terms of where the price range is for staging on there. So I'm just kind of getting an idea for sellers out there who might think it might be only a few $100s compared to, oh, am I spending $10,000 on staging? How do you go about pricing this stuff, and kind of what, as a general idea, some sellers can expect? Let's say for like a 3-bedroom property, which is probably the most typical that you might be doing on there.
So when you're looking at vacant home staging, there's more. So you have the square footage of the property.
Okay.
You have the rooms, or we say spaces being staged, because now you have great rooms where your living, your dining room, and everything's in one area. So the spaces that are being staged, and then also the price point takes into account the type of furnishings that are required for a property. So we have properties that might be $500 for a space that go all the way up to $1,000 a space. Like I said, really, again, driven by the price point and the sizing of the rooms that are being staged and that we're working in. But if you took like a 1,500 square foot home and you're doing like your living, your dining, master kitchen and bathrooms, you're looking about that $2,000 to $2,500 range.
Okay.
So that kind of gives people an idea, and that's in your
Okay.
average price neighborhood.
Got it. And then I'm assuming when you were doing staging for people that were still living in the property because they had the major furniture pieces, was it a little bit less expensive for people when you were doing the at-home staging when they were still there, or is it still a similar price point?
With at home, it really varies depending on what we would call a fluff staging, where you're just going in and adding some color because the homeowner's doing a lot of the work, versus the staging team having to come in and provide things like rugs and furniture. When someone's living there, that actually tends to be a little bit higher just because of wear and tear.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. Good to know. So another question I have for you, and this is kind of what I'm going to wrap it up, because a lot of people are looking for staging advice always. So you're searching on Pinterest, people are looking to sell their home are always trying to say, what can I do that is going to give me the maximum amount of views on my property, the maximum amount of buyers on my property, and ultimately the highest price. So I just kind of want to see your top 3 things that you might think are something that a seller can do on their own to really make sure their house stands out compared to the rest of the competition.
Wow, that's hard, because I think there's so many things that homeowners can do on their own
Okay.
to help improve their properties. But my first is always the declutter and clean. I mean,
Okay.
number one, I mean, sometimes we go in these properties and there's a level of dirt. So just natural because we live there.
Yep.
So making sure things like the baseboards are clean and doing a thorough deep clean of the property, and
Okay.
decluttering, like I said earlier, like the early packing up all the accessories and the personal photos and the 100 toys, and just removing all that first makes a huge difference. My other biggest thing is lighting. Lighting makes all the difference in a property. So if you are a house that maybe doesn't have a lot of natural lighting,
Okay.
it's bringing in some lamps, it's removing the window treatments. I've had houses where they're pretty much original. We remove windows treatments and it's like they got 20 years taken off their life.
Yeah.
So, and it brings the light that then flows in the windows, just a huge difference. And then I think lastly are just doing those minor repairs, because people when they start noticing things that are a little bit wrong, they wonder what else is wrong. It could be a missing handle on a cabinet, something that's so easy to repair. It could be, a door that's not working right. The ones that I think are the most important is like when I go to a house and I can't unlock the front door. That's part of my impression
Always a bad sign.
when I go. So it's just kind of taking in those things and just kind of just doing an overlook. It doesn't have to be big items or expensive items, but look at the
Hmm.
little things that you can say, I could do this. I just put it off. And those are probably things you could
Yep.
get done in a day or two that will make all the difference.
Yeah. And I'm going through a move right myself right now, so I'm doing the same thing. All the small things that you live with for the last 5, 10 years being in the house that kind of just ignored. Now you're going back and saying, "Man, I wish I would have taken care of that a long time ago, so I didn't have to do it now." Instead of cramming all the stuff into a week or two, trying to get everything fixed up, ready to
Right.
go, when I know I should have done it a couple years ago when it originally happened.
Right.
So, yeah, that's kind of something if you are a current homeowner to think about, as if you think might be selling even in 3 or 4 years from now, making sure that you you have that pride of ownership. You're keeping your house up, so when it does come time to sell, you're not scrambling around trying to get all these minor thing fixes, because it does add up, especially timing. So if you
Right.
don't have the time to get all the stuff fixed, it really becomes a burden trying to fit all that stuff in at the same time packing, at the same time getting ready to get your house on the market. So the more proactive you can be as a seller and have that pride of ownership, you're going to be able to get yourself a lot more money and a lot less stress when the time does come to sell your house on the back end of it. So,
Right.
and that's something, the pride of ownership, I always stress with anybody. If you're looking at buyers, just like you said, I have a lot of buyers that will walk in, first impression, they turn on the first light, and two out of three bulbs are not working.
Mhm.
It's like those tiny small things really make a big impression, because buyers are going to start saying, like you said, if this doesn't work, well, how about this? What if this? Do they really take care of the house? Is it falling apart?
Right.
You want to make sure you're giving them no reason at all to doubt the quality of everything going on in your house. And an easy way to do that is to make sure you have all those small things fixed. So, well, I think that covers a lot of the stuff about staging. And like I said, right now, because of COVID especially, but just in general, if you don't have your house staged, it really puts you at a disadvantage, because there's a lot of people out there that are expecting those HGTV type of homes because everybody watches that stuff. And if they walk into a home and they don't see everything in good condition and kind of move-in and ready, then you have a much harder time selling your home. So if you're able to use a stager, the investment, from what I've seen as an agent, I'm sure you've probably seen the same thing, is way worth the amount of money you spend on there, because you get that plus some, and the amount of offers you get. And again, eventually the actual price of the home when you sell it is going to be much higher when you get that staged properly. So well, I thank you for coming on today and joining me. What's the best way for a seller to get a hold of you if they want to reach you about possibly getting a consultation on staging their property?
Just go to my website. It's Stage to Amaze INC, and there is a page where you can put in your information, and we'll be back to you immediately.
Okay, perfect. And I'll also link up all the information and all her contact information in the show notes. So if you want to check that out as well, feel free to do that. But thank you again for joining me today. It was a lot of good information, and I hope some sellers will get this information and give you a call, because it's something that really is important when you're trying to sell a house. So thanks again, Debbie.
Thanks, Josh.
If you found this information useful and you want to be updated on what's going on in the Orange County housing market, please hit the subscribe as well as the bell button below, and that way every time I release a new episode, you'll be notified. Thanks. It means the world to me.